Atlanta is one of them places where if they know I'm coming tomorrow, it's packed. You come into this world butt-ass naked by yourself, you leave this world butt-ass naked by yourself. I don't know what they put in the Kool-Aid in the choir, but there's an effeminizing agent in the choir in the black church. Atlanta is ahead of most black cities. We cannot build black power without building the black dollar. Lord have mercy, she was 5'5" extra thick in the thighs.
Welcome, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Glad to be here. Peace and Pan-Africanism. Shout out to the ATL.
Yes, welcome to GAFollowers. This is our first time to have you.
Yes, sir.
And not our last time at all. We appreciate you coming on our platform.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. So before the books, before the speeches, what was the moment that made you say, nah, I got to dedicate my life to the black liberation?
It was by accident. It was by accident. My parents married when I was in the second grade, maybe the end of first. My father changed my name. I was born Jermaine. My mother named me after Jermaine Jackson because he was the big name before Mike Blue. My father changed it to Umar. When we get to North Carolina, I decide in Jacksonville, North Carolina, that I want to be a psychologist. I don't know where I heard the word from, but that's what I wanted to be. And so I stuck with that my entire life. My parents divorced. We get back to North Philadelphia. I'm from the same neighborhood as Bill Cosby. And so the elementary school that I attended, they had a Black history class. It was not mandatory for the district, but somehow, some way, it was in our school. And so 4th and 5th grade Black history class was my introduction into consciousness, and it was my introduction into public speaking because there was a Black History Month February oratorical contest. So I entered that, I won first place both years, and I never shut up. Now, consequent to 4th and 5th grade Black history class with the oratorical contest, my father takes me to my first family reunion in Baltimore, which is a 2-hour drive from Philadelphia. We're walking in the back of a church. I'll never forget it. And the reason I'll never forget it is because I almost drowned in the swimming pool at the Days Inn Hotel where we stayed. Because my sister was swimming and everybody's swimming, and I'm like, I look like a sucker being the only boy and I'm not jumping in this water. So I jumped in the water not knowing how to swim, and I almost drowned. And thank God for the snow bunny, because she swam over. I saw 2 big breasts, I grabbed them, and I'm here now. So wherever that snow bunny is, that's the one snow bunny I owe something to. Thank you for saving my life.
Stop, we're giving away $1,000 and a free iPhone 17 Pro. All you gotta do is subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you can win $1,000 in a phone. Thanks for watching.
So anyhow, walking in the back of that church, we saw all this Frederick Douglass memorabilia. His Bible, his shoes, I think he had a pipe. And of course, I know exactly who he is from Black history class. And I asked my father, I said, why is all this Frederick Douglass stuff at the family reunion? He said, because you're related to him. And so I perked up like, whoa, say that again. He said, you're related to him. And so from that day on, I was going to every family reunion I possibly could. I only recently stopped going a couple years ago because my politics and my platform as a revolutionary Pan-Africanist doesn't gel with the integrationist colorblind ideology of a lot of people in the family. So just to keep the peace, I tend not to go anymore, but I'm still on the family tree. So is my daughter. So I'm saying all that to say, before I left elementary school, my path was set. Everything I did then, I'm doing now. Consequently, the Garvey movement, so the Honorable Marcus Garvey, who is the father of modern Pan-Africanism, not Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism was around before his parents were born, but he's the father of modern Pan-Africanism because he did with Pan-Africanism what Michael Jackson did with basketball or Serena with tennis. They didn't invent it, they reinvented it, right? So Garvey gives us the red, black, and green flag. He gives us the largest black organization in modern history. Malcolm X's father was murdered doing work for the Honorable Marcus Garvey, okay? So the Garvey International headquarters is in North Philadelphia. My mother purchased my tennis shoes at the Jewish-owned sneaker store right next to the Garvey house. I never knew it was the Garvey house until I come out of undergrad. So mind you, from 4th grade until the end of undergrad, my mother's buying my shoes. This is 12 years next door to the Garvey house. And we never know it's the Garvey house. Once I graduate or once I'm near graduation, They painted red, black, and green, the Garvey colors, and they put his picture in the window. And I'm standing there one day about to go get some sneakers, and the elder comes around, Elder Johnny Gossett. He's an ancestor now. And he says, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, "What are y'all doing here?" He said, "This is the Marcus Garvey movement, UNIA. Come back Sunday." And so I went back Sunday, and it's been almost 25 years, been more than 25 years, and I'm still a member. I'm a member of the Detroit division now, though, not the Philadelphia one.
Okay.
So my life was set in, if my mother doesn't move in that neighborhood, just to show you how destiny works for all of us, not just me. If we don't live in that neighborhood, I don't go to that school. I don't get that Black History class. I don't get that oratorical contest. She don't buy my sneakers next to the Garvey building. I never get as knee deep into Pan-Africanism as I am now. So I was dropped in where exactly I was supposed to be to fulfill my destiny.
All right. Sound like a good journey there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me, what do
So
you
it comes
think?
easy. It comes easy because the first question I get, or a question I get often as I travel around the world, is how do you deal with the detractors or the negativity or the hate rather, right? It gets to you sometimes, but I'm able to deal with it because this walk ain't new for me. Some people just came to Black consciousness, right? They got locked up, did a bit, found themselves like Brother Malcolm did, no shame, but they came to it later, although Malcolm was raised in the Garvey movement, so his story's a little differently. He lost his way, then refound it. But, you know, a lot of brothers come out of jail, a lot of brothers do wrong on the street, they get correct. A lot of brothers join the Black bourgeoisie and get uninvited from that table, and they get mad at the system. They come to Black consciousness as a reaction to being disinvited from the power table, right? Not me. Mine was organic. Since 9 years old, this is all I know. So when you know that this is your purpose, if you know why you here, you can put up with any what. If you know why you here, you can put up with any what. I know why I'm here, so I can put up with any what. And the love is 50 times stronger than the hate anyway. It's just the hate gets the attention. I have more supporters than everybody else in the Black conscious community put together. I have more credentials than everybody in the Black conscious community put together. I'm more requested and more popular than everybody in the Black conscious community put together. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying it's me and it's everybody else.
So tell me, what you think about Atlanta?
I like Atlanta. When I first blew up in 2010, after my Chicago TV interview, September 18, 2010, my Harlem lecture, October 30th, 2010, there was 5 cities, I call them my first 5, that I went to after, well, including New York and Chicago. So there was Chicago, there was New York, there was Cleveland, there was Atlanta, there was Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I might have came to Atlanta 3rd, but I'll never forget it. I wore my Phillies jacket. I'll never forget the first ones, because them are your first ones. So I'm coming to Atlanta like, damn, how's Atlanta gonna receive me? And I walked in this joint, and it was packed. I said, damn. And I never forget, it was a sister right there. Lord have mercy. She was 5'5", extra thick in the thighs. I'll never forget it. That woman was fine. But nonetheless, they received me in Atlanta that day. You're talking fall of 2010. This is early. Like, Pennsylvania knows me, but nobody else really does. Because remember, when I popped off in Chicago and New York, it was overnight. Like, after that New York lecture, brother, I lie to you not, within 48 hours, my phone started ringing, and it ain't stopped in 15 years, literally. And so once I did the first Atlanta, then I started getting more invites to ATL. And mind you, this is my paternal grandfather's birth state, Blakely, Georgia, Southern Georgia. And so then I started doing my own events in Atlanta, Shrine of the Black Madonna. Every time I did an event at the Shrine, it sold out. And I'm probably gonna start doing them again because COVID kind of interrupted that. I ain't done none since then. But Atlanta, I hate to say a Dr. Umar city, because I think every city is a Dr. Umar city because I get love everywhere. But Atlanta is one of them places where if they know I'm coming tomorrow, it's packed without me having to advertise for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So Atlanta is definitely a Dr. Umar city. And I almost ended up here with the school. I was going to purchase a school in Atlanta from a Black church. We was this close to closing. And then things changed for me back in Philadelphia, and I had to end up staying close. But I almost moved to Atlanta and almost opened the school here. Yeah, but destiny kept me from doing that, and that's how the school ended up in Delaware. But I still very much plan to open up an FDMG Academy in Atlanta. I got to do one here because Atlanta, Detroit, Houston, Oakland, let me not do that because I'm gonna have to name everybody, but they really held me down. Even when the haters came, Atlanta held me down. So this is definitely a Dr. Umar town.
Now, everybody call Atlanta the Black Mecca. That's been kind of the nickname for
Uh-huh.
it. So do we actually run anything here, or we just look like we do?
That's a good question. I think both answers are true because two things can be true at the same time. Obviously, you got a very strong black music movement here. You got a very strong entrepreneurial movement here. You have a very strong black consciousness movement here. At the same time, I read an article not too long ago that posed this very question. It said, is Atlanta really the Black Mecca? And it started talking about the poverty. It started talking about the gentrification. It started talking about how much black people actually own. And at the end of the day, it is more than a lot of other black city centers. It is, but it isn't as grand as it is purported to be though. So yes, Atlanta is ahead, I would even say, of most black cities, but I do think the extent to which they are ahead has been exaggerated somewhat. Or maybe it was never exaggerated, but because of that black success, there was probably a pushback by the gentrification movement to undo that power, because remember, they like to keep the Confederacy in the hands of the Confederacy. So it could have very much been that Atlanta was exactly what it purported to be. And then the white power structure came in and said, we got to undermine this, because if we don't control Atlanta, it's gonna be hard for us to continue to control the South and keep it red.
Mm. So shifting gears here a little bit, how do you feel about what's going on in Minnesota right now with ICE and the Renee Good situation?
The timing couldn't be worse, because Donald Trump, as you know, is trying to paint all of our African immigrant brothers and sisters and Caribbean immigrant brothers and sisters and Central and South American immigrant brothers and sisters. He's trying to paint them like criminals, right? So we know Renee Good was the head on the monster. So this white woman is the one who created this system to exploit the funding in this free food program. So she basically scammed $250 million of federal subsidies. But she had beneath her 75 Somali African immigrants who was working this thing with her. Of course, Trump and the MAGA movement, they're putting all the attention on the Somalis. Renee Good is being talked about as well, but she's not being demonized as much as those 75 Somalis are. Now, don't get me wrong, you should never rob from the poor. So if I'm talking to them 75 Somali brothers and sisters, I'm like, how could y'all do this? Because this was money that was supposed to feed people who don't have food. That money was going to after school programs and things like that. So you shouldn't have stole from that. You shouldn't steal, period, but not from the needy. So what they did was wrong. They got to be held accountable for it. The problem is Donald Trump and the MAGA movement is going to use this as a justification to intensify the deportation of continental Africans. That's the problem with this. It came at the worst time. But that's not the only scam they have. Okay, there are 14 different Medicaid scams operating in the state of Minnesota, and no, they're not all ran by Somalis. There's an autism scam. They arrested 2 people for pimping the autism money. There is a homelessness scam where they arrested 7 to 14 people who are taking money that is supposed to be used to help people find somewhere to live, and they're keeping that money to themselves when they're supposed to be helping disabled people and elders find suitable shelter. There's another scam. Well, the biggest scam is the child care scam that they're still investigating. They said, Donald Trump says that scam is worth about $6 billion. The governor of Minnesota disputes Donald Trump's claim. He said it's not that big, but the president is trying to make it look such so that he can really exaggerate the extent to which you have all this fraud going on in Minnesota. But this is a big deal. Anytime you have one state with 14 different federal subsidy scams, all in programs that are supposed to help people. In fact, Tim Walz decided not to run again for re-election. He said he can't even run now, and it's probably the Democrats who told him to sit down. Because if he runs for re-election and becomes governor, and if Kamala Harris gets the Democratic nominee again, and she goes back to Tim Walz again to be her vice presidential running mate, what is the first thing the Republicans are going to bring up? The 14 Medicaid scams in your state. Like, how could you overlook this? So to make a long story short, it could not have happened as a worse time. at a worse time because this has given Donald Trump the ammunition he needs to deport all of our immigrant African brothers and sisters. So I don't like it.
Now, I will say most of the internet has come to learn about it from an influencer named Nick Shirley, who exposed the daycare fraud for the Somalian. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not. Black or white?
He's a white guy.
Okay.
And I believe he's conservative. He's spoken at the White House.
If I'm not mistaken, he's the one who created the Somali scam narrative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I was going to ask what you think of him or.
Well, I mean, listen, politics is all about narratives. You know, that's what they're going to do. I'm neither Democrat or Republican. Both of them are white racist political parties that have never done anything structurally for black people. I do not vote for either one unless I have a reason to. You know, unfortunately, the Democrats are painting this Donald Trump MAGA movement, you know, as some sort of vindication of the Democratic Party. And I'm telling black people, why are you treating this like a vindication of the Democratic Party? Because you had Joe Biden in office for 4 years. This man gave the Asians an anti-hate bill. He gave the Jews an anti-hate bill. He gave the homosexuals an anti-hate bill. He gave the Native Americans an anti-hate bill and didn't give black people anything at all. So what makes Joe Biden any better than Donald Trump? Nothing. What made Bill Clinton any better than Donald Trump, except he let black people dance at his inauguration and he put a couple Negroes on his presidential cabinet, and damn near every black person that Bill Clinton put on the cabinet, he kicked off later. See, when you look at the X's and O's, there's not much difference between the Democrats and Republicans. The only difference is the strategy. And what black people are not recognizing, what we fail to see, is the Democrats will let the Republicans do their dirty work to keep their hands clean, but they still support them. For example, when the governor of Florida, DeSantis, said that he was going to eliminate black history from the books, Joe Biden as President Joe Biden said, I'm not going to take him to court over that. I'm not going to cut off his federal funding over that. But according to the Civil Rights Bill of 1964, as well as the federal educational amendments, if you practice discrimination in federally funded public school programs, you get your money cut. Joe Biden didn't touch his money. So the Democrats feel the same way about black people as Republicans do. They just practice a different strategy.
If you've been watching games anyways, you might as well make it more fun. I've been using Prize Picks, and it's super easy. All you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats and build a lineup. Prize Picks is available in over 40 states, and right now new users can play $5 and get $50 in lineups. All you have to do is download the Prize Picks app and use the code GAFollowers. Prize Picks is good to be right.
Now, going back to feeling about something, I saw Stephen Smith kind of double down on calling that shooting of Renee Good completely justified.
Well, in defense of Stephen A., I'm going to defend my brother. And you know, I've been critical of Stephen A. in the past, but I'm going to defend him here, and I'm going to tell you why. They took Stephen A.'s comments out of context. And what I mean by that is, if you go and watch the entire 25-minute segment when he spoke on the Minnesota shooting, right after he said the shooting was completely justified, first what he said was, from a legal perspective, the officer is not going to be prosecuted. From a legal perspective, the shooting was justified. I didn't agree with him in saying that. But right after he said that, he said, but from a humanitarian perspective, this did not have to happen. Why did you have to do this? Why couldn't you have shot the tires out on the car? But what the media did, as the white racist media always do, they take whatever they want to take from your soundbite and they ran with it. And what disappoints me is I don't have a problem with black people disagreeing with Stephen A. Smith no more than I have a problem with black people disagreeing with me. But don't take my comments out of context. It wasn't like Stephen A. Smith corrected himself 10 minutes later. The very next sentence he said, from a humanitarian perspective, she did not have to die. He even went on one of them shows and debated one of the white conservatives as to the fact that that woman did not have to die that day. So Stephen A. is being done wrong here. And unfortunately, you got black influencers who are taking his comments out of context. They're only reporting on the shooting was completely justified. They're not clarifying that the man did say, from a humanitarian perspective, that mother did not have to die. So I'm going to stand with Stephen A. because he did clarify them remarks and nobody's dealing with his clarity.
All right. So you see ICE and the National Guard kind of infiltrating all of the cities, right?
They are.
Are they coming for African Americans next?
Here's my question. When did they stop coming for African Americans? See, we have a bad habit as black people of being swept up in the alarmism of the moment, failing to realize this never stopped for you. Have you ever heard of Breonna Taylor? Have you heard of Trayvon Martin? Have you heard of Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Sonia Massey, Sonia Bland, Freddie Gray, Amir Locke? You understand? This never stopped for us, but we have this need to feel included with everybody else because we know nobody likes black people, immigrants included. So whenever they're going through something, we have to jump in and act like we're sharing it with them. Yes, black people have been attacked by ICE. Yes, you've had black people shot by ICE. But this ICE a wave of terrorism, this has never not been the case for black people. It may be new for the Mexicans. You see, it may be new for the African immigrants. This has been state-sanctioned behavior for all police against black people since the end of slavery. It's nothing new. The question is, what are we going to do about it?
So we saw you briefly touch on what happened in Venezuela in another interview. I think we were at the beginning of it, but now we've had more occurrences in that situation happen. Now with more information being out, what are your thoughts about the Venezuelan situation with Trump?
I'm going to be very clear about this. Jeffrey Epstein was Israeli secret intelligence. He was a Mossad agent. In the way that the Zionists control those who have power in America is through blackmail. Jeffrey Epstein had a secret assignment to entrap, through pedophilia and other decadent sexual acts, every financier of influence, every entertainer of influence, every politician of influence. His job was to find all of the influencers over the American power structure and entrap them through Epstein Island. Donald Trump, I don't know if he participated in any of the disgusting crimes against those black children because most of the victims were black children, but he had knowledge of it. And the Zionists know Donald Trump had knowledge of it. So Donald Trump is now a puppet for the Zionists. Everything that Donald Trump is doing, he's doing because he has no choice but to do. If Donald Trump goes against the Zionist agenda, he will go to jail for the rest of his life for being complicit in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. People are saying Donald Trump said no new wars. Donald Trump said, why are we fighting other people's battles? If the war isn't important for America, why are we getting in it? But now you see him, he's completely contradicting himself. You just bombed Nigeria. You bombed and invaded Venezuela, kidnapped the president. You sending threats to Iran that you're going to bomb them on behalf of the Zionists in Israel. Why is Donald Trump dancing to a different drum than the one he played when he campaigned for presidency of the United States the second term? Because he didn't know the Zionists had a blackmail card on him. Donald Trump has to do exactly what they tell him to do, or he will go to jail for the rest of his life. Not because he participated necessarily, but because he had knowledge of it and did nothing about it. There's a viral video of Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. I think they're at the White House, and Donald Trump pulls his chair out, and then he sits down and he pushes his chair, and he was basically being subservient to Netanyahu. You've never seen Donald Trump as arrogant and narcissistic as he is. You've never seen him be subservient to any man. That's the first time I've seen Donald Trump be subservient in his life. Why is he bowing down to Netanyahu? Because they got the blackmail card, Epstein Island. The reason the Zionists made Donald Trump go into Venezuela is Venezuela has a very strong oil deal with Iran. Iran is Israel's arch enemy. They also have an oil deal with China. China alleges to be America's arch enemy. So if you pay attention to a lot of what Donald Trump is doing, his enemies are the enemies of Israel and the Zionists. That is not a coincidence.
So we're going to shift gears a bit. We're going to jump back into the political space. But, you know, we saw this kind of rumored around and we wanted to get your thoughts on it. So critics say, obviously, you raised millions for your school. And after some time, about a decade or so, the school hasn't been up. So they want to know what's the 2026 update on FDMG Academy.
First of all, anything a critic says about FDMG, I would like to know where they get their information from. Nobody knows how much money we raised because we never shared it. My circle is so tight that nobody in the public could know anything unless we share it with them. The only people we share information with are our donors. The big problem with the so-called FDMG controversy is the people asking the questions are not the donors. The donors don't ask questions. We have their complete faith, complete support. 85% of our donors are repeat donors, which means they've been supporting us since the fundraiser began. The people who want answers are people who have no vested interest at all in the project. So I don't answer questions to people who don't have any vested interest in the project. You follow what I'm saying? I don't go around offering answers to people who don't have anything to do with what I'm working on, because this is a private Black community initiative. We don't owe them no answers. We don't take any federal money. You see what I'm saying? So, that's the problem, because they want us to be accountable to YouTube. They want us to be accountable to Instagram. They want us to be accountable to the struggle streams. I'm not accountable to nobody but our donors. So when donors have a question, they can call me and ask. And I know if they're a donor or not because we've recorded every donation we've ever gotten. Every one. You follow? So if you call, say, Doc, I wanted to ask you a question about a school. Sure. What's your name? When was your last donation? How did you make that donation? Let me confirm you. And you can ask all the questions you want. But if you're just a struggle streamer, you're just looking for content so you can just run with some negativity, I'm not giving you no answers. With that being said, let me clarify a couple things about FDMG. The fundraiser began on April the 12th of 2014 in St. Louis. Originally, we wanted to purchase the HBCU St. Paul's College in Lawrenceville, Southern Virginia. HBCU for sale, they wanted $2 million. A buddy of mine called me up and said, Doc, there's an HBCU for sale for $2 million. Of course, we hadn't even started raising money yet. So the fundraiser began. We lost. The Chinese purchased it. And I'm embarrassed that Black people let another race purchase an HBCU built by our ancestors coming out of slavery. So Chinese have the St. Paul's. So we said, okay, we can't get St. Paul's. Let's keep on raising this money and let's try to just get a regular day school. So we started traveling all over the world. As I told you earlier, we almost ended up in Atlanta. The big issue with the early school search is once these property owners found out who I was, and let me be clear, most of the properties that we were interested in during our school search from 2014 to 2019 was Roman Catholic schools because they take good care of their property. I thought we were going to end up in Detroit also. Detroit had about 5 Catholic schools that we had enough money to buy, and once they found out who I was, they wouldn't sell. There was another Catholic school in Money Earned in Mount Vernon, New York. They wanted to lease it clean. I said, we ready to lease. They called the Vatican in Rome. He told me this. He said, half the Catholic schools in America are managed directly from Rome. I did not know that. So he had to call the Vatican and ask them if it was okay to lease this school to Dr. Umar. They said no. So a big part of the delay was we couldn't get nobody who would sell us the property that we wanted, right? So we ended up in Wilmington, Delaware. We bought the school in 2019, only 5 years. All Black money, no white financiers, no white bank. Purchasing a school in 5 years from the people's money from the community, I see no problem with that. So we get the school in February 7th of 2019, and we've been renovating it since. February 7th of 2026 will be 7 years. This past Saturday, we completed all the renovations on the school. Why were we delayed so much? And I'm not even going to call it delay, because I believe in divine timing. If it didn't happen yet, it wasn't supposed to. You feel me? That's my position. But if we want to look at this practically, the reason it took us 7 years to do the renovations is because the Black contractors, I'm going to say it, the Black contractors who we depended on to help us cross this finish line sooner, they scammed us, they robbed us, they never completed their work. I haven't had a single Black contractor. Quote me on this. In 7 years, I haven't had a Black plumber, Black electrician, Black roofer, Black HVAC, Black painter, Black floor person, not one Black contractor who we paid to do the work ever finished what they got paid to do. Not one. So can't nobody say shit to me about how long it took us to get this job done. It took us long because of ninjas in the community who don't have integrity and work ethic.
Now, do you believe you need any more help?
Well, as I said, we finished. The renovations are done. We got to dot a couple I's and cross a couple T's, and then we have to go for inspection with the city of Wilmington, Delaware. We don't know what's going to happen with that because they never thought we would finish. Now that we're done, we now got to fight them. Because remember, they tried to sell the school behind our backs this past summer. We had a vacant property registration fee bill that we should not have even owed because as a nonprofit, you're supposed to get a 4-year waiver. They didn't give it to us, right? I called them up to see if we can come to some type of an agreement. If you're not going to give it to us, say that and let us pay. The woman in the office told me she would call me back on 3 different occasions, never called me back. I emailed on 3 or 4 other occasions, never responded to my email. All of a sudden, I get a phone call, Dr. Umar, the struggle streamers on YouTube, talking about your school is about to be auctioned in 21 days. I said, this can't be true. I just checked the mail. We ain't got no mail saying they trying to sell our school. All our bills is paid up except that vacant property registration fee. So I called one of my supporters in Wilmington. I said, can you go past the school and see if there's another set of paperwork on the other door? Because remember, we own both schools, by the way, not 1, 2. We own 4 buildings. We own the block. Name somebody else in the Black conscious community who bought a whole block. Nobody. I'm the only one. So anyway, the struggle streamer stole 1 set of paperwork. My supporter got the other set of paperwork. She took a picture of it and sends it to me, right? Guess what? If they would have took both sets of paperwork, if the haters would have took both sets of paperwork, I would have never knew that our property was going up for sale because the city of Wilmington did not communicate that to us. They would have sold that school behind our backs and we would have never even known. So when I tell you getting ready for this inspection, we might have to get ready for war. We might have to get ready for war.
Well, I hope that completes itself how it should, for sure.
It should. Either way, it don't matter. My ancestor Frederick Douglass told us more than 100 years ago, no struggle, no progress. If they want a war, we give them one. If I got to bring 3 million black people to Wilmington, Delaware and march on the city, that's exactly what we do. If I got to take them to court and sue them for $5-10 million for constantly discriminating against us, that's what we'll do. Whatever it takes. I'm built for it. I hope they are.
Now, you always talk about black ownership and black business.
That's right.
Why do so many of our institutions struggle while others flourish with less resistance?
Because black people love white people more than they love themselves. Black people want to be accepted by white people more than each other. The black American dream is to be amalgamated with the Caucasian community. We don't want an all black hospital. We don't want all black communities. We don't want black supermarkets. We want to be accepted by white people. That is the dream. We raise our kids to go to school, get an education, move out your neighborhood into a white one. And if you buy a house around white people, you're considered a success in the black community. That was true 100 years ago. That's true today. Who really wants to be part of a black community? I do, but there's not a lot of us who are. You can't build independently for black people when you don't have enough black people who wants to support it. The Garvey House in North Philadelphia. I told you my mother bought my sneakers from a Jewish-owned sneaker store. There was a brother who opened up a black sneaker store right across the street. He competed with the Europeans head on. Cheaper prices. Guess what? He had to close down in 1 year. Black people still want to the Jew instead of the African. We believe the white ice is colder. Why do successful black men marry and date out their community more than all other men put together per capita? We hate ourselves. And this is why I always say you have to have a psychological revolution before you can have an economic one, political one, social, intellectual, spiritual. If you don't change the way black people think, you don't change anything else about us. That's why I'm starting with FDMG. People say, why are you starting with a school? You should be building an army. Ridiculous. If I build an army full of self-hating Negroes, do you know what they're going to do the first time they get access to weapons? Shoot each other. You have to change the way black people think. And I want to do that through the babies. It only takes 1 generation, 20 years of raising African boys and girls the right way. And you can have a whole new people, but you got to change the mind. The revolution begins in the mind. If there's no revolution in consciousness, there will be no revolution in reality.
Absolutely. So on top of that, if black America is ever going to truly be strong, who has to be built first? Education, money, media?
Education and economics go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. They're the left and the right foot of any serious revolutionary effort. And when I say revolutionary effort, that doesn't have to be military. You follow? That could be economic, that could be political. We're talking about a 360-degree change. You got to get the economics together, because black people, why are we so dependent on white folks? Because we don't have no independent infrastructure. We talk about Black Wall Street. What made the Black Wall Streets great of the 1920s? The Rosewood, Floridas, and the Charleston, South Carolinas, and the Wilmington, North Carolinas, and the Tulsa, Oklahoma. They didn't need white people for anything. They had their own. In fact, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the white businessmen would come borrow money from the black businessmen, until one day they got so jealous, accused the brother of sexually abusing a white girl, and that's what started the Tulsa Race Massacre. And of course, the oldest survivor of that massacre, Miss Viola Fletcher, I believe her name is, she just joined the ancestors a few weeks ago, right? And they refused, the state of Oklahoma refused to give her reparations. You gave the Jews reparations for a Holocaust that didn't even happen on American soil. You gave the Japanese reparations for the internment camps in World War II. But you're not going to give this Queen Mother one person, and there were two left, and I think she was the last, and you won't even give them reparations for what they've been through. They lived through it, and the state of Oklahoma struck down the reparations. But getting back to my point, Tulsa wanted to be independent. Wilmington, North Carolina wanted to be. Rosewood, Florida, they wanted to be independent. Black people don't really want to be independent. We don't trust and love each other enough for that. We always want white people involved. And until you have a transformation of consciousness, it'll always be that way. And it don't have to be that way. Chinese come to America independent. East Indians come to America independent. Arabs come to America independent. All kind of Europeans come to America independent. You got little Italies, you got little China, you got Chinatown, you got little Cambodia. Where's little Africa at? Nowhere. Nowhere in black America can you go today and find a black community that owns its own bank, school, hospital, supermarket, manufacturing, and distribution. You need a bank to invest in the people. You need a school to teach the people. You need a hospital to save the people. You need a supermarket to feed the people. And you need a manufacturing and distribution sector to provide for the people the basic necessities they need and to provide them with jobs. Name me a black business in this country that can hire, that has 1,000 black people on their payroll. 1,000. And you got billionaires who don't even have 1,000 black people on their payroll. One of the biggest differences between the black billionaire and the white billionaire, or the black billionaire and the Chinese billionaire, is the Chinese billionaire and the white billionaire, they grow companies in their community. If there's an Asian billionaire, he got 25 Asian companies he can show that he created, not for himself, for his people. You go to the black billionaire, they might can show you one or two. You know why? Black people have no type of community consciousness. We do not believe in Ubuntu, an African principle that says I am because we are. Black people believe in the HNIC syndrome. I want to be the head Negro in charge. I want to look better than everybody else. And in order to do that, I got to keep them in the ghetto. I can't help them get out. You can't name me a rapper, not one of them in this country. You can't name one who has built an independent black school for black children. Not one. Billionaire, millionaire, top 10, not one of them, not one. And most of them come from a ghetto, and not one of them has built an independent school for black children. They got a bunch of charter schools, but charter schools is government money. That's a welfare check. You're a multi-millionaire. What you need with a charter school? Where's your independent school? You mean to tell me Dr. Umar got 2 independent schools, and you're a multi-millionaire and a billionaire, and you ain't even got one?
Let's give a scenario. If a 22-year-old man in Atlanta right now comes to you with nothing but hustle, what's the first real move you think he should make to build that generational wealth?
Well, number one, he got to find a job to take care of himself, right? Because the first of all necessities is self-preservation. So get you a job, stack your cash. I don't care if you got to work 3 or 4 of them, you got to stack your cash. And then my second thing to him is you either need to go to real estate school, stock and investing school, or trade school. According to some recent reports, plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs are on schedule to make more money than physicians, medical doctors, because there's such a need for them. And I can attest to that myself, because for the plumbing work we got done at FDMG, we paid over $100,000 for that. The electric work we got done at FDMG, we paid over $100,000 for that. The HVAC work we got done at FDMG, we paid over $100,000 for that, and it only took them a week or two to do the work. You feel me? So you're making half of a doctor's salary, and you make it in a week or two. So if I'm talking to him, you're going to trade school. Get your license. It only take you 2 years. Become a licensed HVAC. Become a licensed carpenter. Become a licensed welder, a brick mason, roofer. Then get your real estate license and start flipping houses all around Atlanta, flipping houses all around Georgia. Most millionaires in America are not doctors, lawyers, and engineers. They are realtors. Learn the skills so you can rehab your own homes and then get into real estate.
Obviously, you've been very clear about interracial relationships. You even said, you said they lead to political extinction. So where does that responsibility really sit on the individual or in the system?
Well, the bottom line is, do you love your people? And do you want to see black people succeed? It starts with that. If you have no loyalty to the black race, you don't care who you date. You don't care how you distribute your wealth, right? So first of all, you have to care about your people. And if you care about your people, common sense will lead you to conclude that we cannot build black power without building the black dollar. And you cannot accumulate wealth if you're marrying outside your community, because in the event of a divorce, or even if there is no divorce, half of your assets are going to somebody who belongs to another community. You don't see nobody else going out of their way to marry women of another race the way black men do. So this is psychological, it is spiritual, but it is mostly economic. The biggest danger of interracial dating is its financial betrayal. It is financial betrayal. Look at Shannon Sharp. He got hit with that lawsuit by the OnlyFans Snow Bunny. Some say he had to pay her $20 million. She was on OnlyFans. She's a multi-million-dollar now. Tyler Perry just got hit with a $260 million lawsuit from a white man, Derek Dixon, and another $77 million lawsuit from a Latino by the last name of Rodriguez. Okay, Smokey Robinson just got hit sexual harassment of 4 Latinos. Okay, and we could keep on going down the list. Tiger Woods, his divorce settlement with his wife was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We're liquidating assets from the black community. You're taking from your own who don't have enough, and you're giving it to another people who've stolen enough from you. I have nothing against the white female, or the brown one, or the red one, or the yellow one. But I need the wealth of the black community to stay in our community. How are we going to save the black family if we're not building none? Our children don't see healthy examples of black on black love. Our children don't see healthy examples of heterosexual love at a time when the American media movement is pushing interracial dating and same-sex dating for black children. You think it's a coincidence that every time you turn on the TV, every couple involving black people is either same-sex or interracial? Why are they not putting Chinese in interracial couples with East Indians? I ain't seen one. Why are they not putting Mexicans in interracial relationships with Arabs? I ain't seen one. Why is the only interracial relationship we see on broadcast television is black women and men with white people? Because they're trying to brainwash our children into believing that there is no such thing as black love. Black love is over. If you want to be happy, go and get you somebody from another race, or get you somebody from the same gender who does not look like you. And why are they doing this? Because America has tried AIDS. AIDS is killing us. And in fact, Atlanta, y'all have the worst homosexual HIV AIDS crisis in the country. And it is one of the worst in the world. And nobody is going to convince Dr. Umar Johnson that the same city that is home to the Center for Disease Control, Atlanta is home for the Center for Disease Control. It's the quote unquote black mecca of economic power, Center for Disease Control, and it ends up with the worst HIV AIDS crisis in black America. The government is doing this. The government is doing this. Turn the black boys into homosexuals and pumped them full of the AIDS virus. And this is not conspiracy. This is well documented. We get the first documented cases of AIDS in the early 80s. Okay, early 80s, there was a government experiment where they gave homosexuals a certain vaccination. I think it was the polio vaccination. And almost every homosexual in New York and Los Angeles, you can look this up, almost every homosexual in New York and Los Angeles who was given that vaccination, I think it was polio, but it could have been something else, they came down with HIV/AIDS within 5 years. AIDS is a government weapon, just like COVID was. But getting back to my point, AIDS is working, but not fast enough. Homosexuality is working, but not fast enough. Black on black genocide is working, but not fast enough. White on black genocide, mass incarceration, poor diet, cancer, poor food. All of these are government sanctioned strategies to eliminate the black population, but they're not working fast enough. They were supposed to cut black America down in half by the year 2000. That was the original plan coming from former President Jimmy Carter's Global 2000 initiative. That was also the original plan coming from former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, who was a Rockefeller when he put out the National Security Study Memorandum 200 on December the 10th of 1974. That was the first time a modern government did research on how to control global population. That was 74. They followed it up with Jimmy Carter, who was also a CFR in the 1980s to reduce global population. AIDS came out of that. Here's the point that I wanted to make, because I want to tie this back to the proliferation of interracial marriages, relationships, and interracial same-sex relationships. We already know 2 men can't reproduce, 2 women can't reproduce. That's why the homosexual strategy is so popular in the black community, because it's a form of birth control. Now, here's the new strategy. We're going to influence black children to only date white people, to only date Asians, to only date Arabs, to only date East Indians. If black people only date white, because that's the main group, we love the slave master, so mostly white, in 3 generations, your phenotype is killed. In 3 generations, your phenotype is killed. If you have a child with a white woman, that child gonna come out lighter. It ain't the complexion as much as the identity, right? You got light-skinned Africans in here, but they still identify as black, you see. But if I have a white mother who raises me to be biracial, and then I have a child with a white woman, and that child is raised to be biracial. When somebody says to them, "What are you?" "I'm biracial." "You're not black?" "No, I'm biracial." What does that do to the numbers of black people in America? It reduces them. It raises the number of biracials. So what America is doing now, they're trying to engineer the end of black identity as a distinct population in this country. We just started the second quarter of the 21st century. 2026 is the first of 25 years in this second quarter. Hear me well. If we keep on bunny hopping the way that we are, and if we keep on practicing this intergenerational bunny hopping, guess what's going to happen? By the time the third quarter of the 21st century rolls around in 2050, there will be no more black people in America, because all the black people will not only be light-skinned, that ain't the problem, but they will identify as biracial. And then the U.S. Congress is going to pass a law, and the president is going to sign an executive order that officially eliminates black people as an identifiable category in America. And once you do that, you don't need black fraternities and sororities anymore, because there are no more black people. You don't need the NAACP and Urban League no more. There are no black people. You don't need black organizations, black presidents, black initiatives, or anything else, because black people don't exist. We only have biracial. We are practicing self-inflicted genocide through interracial romance, and we don't even realize it. We're canceling ourselves without the government having to make us do it.
What do you say to a black man who says, "I'll marry a black woman, but I'll just have fun with the white women"?
No. Why do you need to have fun with the white woman at all? You have low self-esteem. You hate yourself. Black men date white women because they wish they were white. Black women date white women because they wish they were white. We have been through too much hell at the hands of the Caucasian race all over the world. And I don't hate nobody, but we've been through too much hell for you to be so infatuated with getting between that white woman's legs. And the reason the black man has a fetish for swimming between the white woman's legs is because in his mind, integrating into her body is metaphorically equivalent to integrating into the white reality. So psychologically, being able to sleep with a white woman in the black man's consciousness is the equivalent of being accepted by white people.
You talked about Sharon Moore getting double bunnied.
Double bunny.
So why do you
Double
think,
bunny.
Why do you think black men keep falling for stuff like this? Why do you think they keep falling for?
Low self-esteem is a mental illness. Low racial self-esteem is a mental illness. You cannot solve a mental illness unless you admit you have one. You think Sharon Moore or Charles Barkley or Joel Embiid or Van Jones or any of the rest of these snow bunny hoppers, do you think they're going to admit that I have a low African self-esteem problem and that's why I'm addicted to the snow bunny? Look at Tiger Woods. He can't find a black woman. You think he's going to admit to himself that I have an issue with what I see when I look in the mirror, and that's why I don't want to see a woman who looks like me? Low racial self-esteem is a mental illness. The bunny hopping crisis, the snow bunny crisis is mental illness. In order for them to correct it, they have to admit they have it. They're not going to admit they have a problem with self-hate. No more than a black woman running around downtown Atlanta with a blonde weave with blue, black, purple skin is going to admit that she's emulating the white woman. She's not going to admit it because the ego does not like to admit its faults. Go up to a sister with blonde wig or blonde weave. She will argue you down. I'm just doing this for protective hair. Well, if this is protective hair, why is it not black? Why is it yellow? Why is it blonde? Because bleached blonde is an idealized hair color amongst white women. And because you want to emulate white women, you want to emulate their hair. So black men are addicted to the pale vagina and black women are addicted to the hairstyles of the white woman. Self-hatred all the way around.
Now, are black men and black women more divided than ever today?
Of course. And I think the black male-female relationship crisis is a part of this entire governmental scheme to destroy and eliminate the race. And for black men, my issue with black men, we're the only men I know of who goes on the internet, disrespects, degrades, and chastises their women in front of the whole world. I've never seen a Chinese man on the internet say, I want nothing to do with Chinese women. I've never seen a Jewish man on the internet say, Jewish women are worth nothing. I've never heard that. I've never seen an East Indian go on Twitter and do a 5-hour live on how much he hates East Indian women. We are the only men in this country who will publicly insult our women, do it gladly, and do it for fun. And here's what I'm gonna say to black men. How dare you? How dare you criticize the black woman for not being treated like a king when you are not taking care of your kingdom? You got young black men crashing out all over Atlanta. What are black men doing about it? How many independent schools we got in Atlanta? Why we ain't got more? Do we have an independent black hospital in Atlanta? Are black men actively building the kingdom that they claim to be king of? So you want black women to kiss your ass and you're not even taking care of the kingdom. Where the jobs at for our children? Why we got so many homeless babies running around? Even if you claim you hate black women, what about the children? They belong to us. Black men are supposed to be the protectors and providers of the village. When was the last time we came together as men, whether it be Atlanta, whether it be Fort Lauderdale, Philadelphia, Oakland, Houston, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville? When is the last time black men came together as a group and said, we're going to take back our community? They don't even talk about building anything. I see these fake Negroes on the internet disrespecting black women and won't have one conversation about building a bank. Won't have one conversation about building a community security force. Shout out to the new Black Panther Party. Shout out to the Fred Hampton Gun Club. Shout out to the Malcolm X Gun Club. Shout out to the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. Shout out to all the military formations in the community who do the job of protecting our people. But how you got a whole show on how black women are not what you need them to be when you are not what the community needs you to be? Listen, our women want to follow us. Our women want to humble themselves to us. Our women want us to be the leaders that they need. But God created the black woman out of power. Feminine energy, the divine feminine, that's power. And God created the black woman. She is so constituted, so well constituted, even in her trauma, that a black woman cannot bow to a black man who is not stronger than she is. The reason they're not yielding is we're asking black women to bow before us when she's stronger than you. A black woman can only yield to a man who's stronger than her.
Now, with that being said, is marriage still a goal for black people?
It has to be, because marriage is the basic institution of a community. If you ain't got strong, healthy black families, you're not building nothing else. Okay? So where you get the wealth from? The family. Where you get healthy fathers from? The family. Where you get healthy mothers from? The family. So let's say we don't have no more black marriage, right? Let's say in the state of Georgia, nobody gets married this whole second quarter of the 21st century, right? But we still gonna build hospitals, we still gonna build businesses, we still gonna build schools and supermarkets, manufacturers, but nobody was raised in a healthy two-parent family. What happens to all the other institutions? They get destroyed by traumatic, emotionally unhealthy Negroes who were not properly reared by masculine and feminine energy collaborating for their best interests. Are you following me? You're starting the bank, but your mother and father didn't do nothing but fight all day. I'm starting the school, but I saw my father beat my mother all day. He's going to be over the supermarket and he never knew his daddy. You see this? How are we going to build healthy institutions when we're not healthy ourselves? If there is no healthy black family, there will be no healthy black institutions. It starts with the family.
So do you think influencers, rappers, and viral personalities are becoming the new leaders of black America?
They're not leaders, they're the new distractors, Decepticons. Because where are they leading us to? We could call them misleaders, but we can't call them leaders. First of all, nobody with a contract with white people can lead black people. Let me say this again. I want to go hardcore Pan-Africanism, Garveyism 1.0. If you work for white people, you cannot lead me nowhere. You can be part of the movement, but you can't be the leader because you have a conflict of interest. Lead your people or feed your family. You see that? Who did Dr. King work for? Nobody. Who did Malcolm work for? Nobody. Who did Medgar Evers work for? Nobody. Who did Huey P. Newton work for? Nobody. Who did the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey work for? Nobody. Your leader has to be economically self-sufficient. If he's not, they can break him down. Al Sharpton makes about $2 million a year. Most of it is through white philanthropy. No disrespect to Al Sharpton, but he can't lead me nowhere because your salary is paid for by white folks. And you are not going to bite the hand that feeds you in order to lead me. I will never follow a Negro who works for another race. Your leader must be economically self-sufficient. So that eliminates your rappers. They are tied to Jewish music companies. That eliminates your actors. They are tied to white-owned Hollywood film studios. You follow me? That eliminates your politicians. All of them are Democratic Party plantation slaves. Who do you have in the influencer world who isn't tied to a white contract or white paycheck? Nobody. So they cannot be leaders. Leaders got to come from the grassroots, not from TV.
So let's talk sports and relationships a little bit. So what do you think about Deion Sanders and Carucci?
I don't know Carucci well, but how old is she, roughly?
I want to say she's around my age, maybe
What's
in
that?
her 30s, early 30s.
Okay, Deion is mid-50s. I don't see a problem with that. She's clearly grown. She knows what she's doing. I don't see a problem with that. She has the freedom to leave. She has her own fame, her own money. He got the freedom to leave. He got his own fame, his own money. I don't have a problem with that.
I guess the internet is probably rumored to have a problem because
What?
of his kids being close in age to her as well.
I don't care about that. So what?
Okay.
So what? I don't see no problem with that. She ain't 21. You see, she was 21, you can say that's still a baby. She's in her 30s. How old does she have to be? Deion don't look his age. The brother in shape, still young looking. I don't see a problem with him dating her. I don't see a problem with that.
So what do you think about Mike Tomlin stepping down as a head coach from the Steelers?
I'm surprised they kept him this long. And that's not a knock on Mike Tomlin, but, you know, I kind of like the Steelers a little bit, being a Pennsylvania guy, even though the Eagles is my main team. And I do feel like he kind of underachieved. My own personal issue with Mike Tomlin, and I'm not going to say personal, my political issue with Mike Tomlin, it was during the police protests during COVID, when everybody was out protesting the Black Marches for Justice, and he made a very sarcastic, dismissive comment about black people who was protesting against the police genocide. I think he called it nonsense or crap or something on one of the post-game press conferences. So I lost a lot of respect for him then. I didn't appreciate that. No black man should ever be speaking against black people who fighting for justice. But he's going to get another job. He's a good enough coach to get another job. I hope he gets another job, right? He's one of the longest tenured coaches in NFL history, 19 years. I do think it was time for him to go, though.
Jalen Hurts receiving a lot of criticism right now. So do you feel like he's holding the Eagles back?
I do not think Jalen Hurts is holding the Eagles back. The bottom line is, in that fourth quarter, there was about 4 times we had a chance to win that game, and the receivers dropped balls, period. And those balls were on the money, on target. I'm not knocking the receivers. We all human. We all make mistakes. But it can't possibly be Jalen Hurts' fault when he hit you right on the numbers for that pass. You get paid to make the big plays. Hurts made the big plays down the stretch. The receivers didn't deliver. That's not a knock, because I love all the receivers we got. But I can't put that on Jalen Hurts. I will say, and I'm going to parrot some of what Stephen A. Smith said, I think the offensive coordinator is too predictable. You have too much talent on that team for your offensive scheme to be so predictable. For you to be running the same 7 plays all game long, even in the playoffs, even when you lose it, it's time to make a change.
They just fired him, so
okay.
Yeah, that just recently happened.
Yeah, no, I don't know if the Eagles ever do a trick play. And they try to blame Jalen Hurts and say, well, he can't do them plays. If he practices them, he can do them. Y'all don't even practice them. Practice them and let's see, right? Because you got other quarterbacks who are Jalen Hurts' height who do trick plays. So you can't blame it on the height. Russell Wilson did trick plays all the time when he was in Seattle. So it ain't the height. You guys don't believe in ingenuity. You can't keep running the same 5 and 7 plays like you Denzel Washington or Remember the Titans. It ain't going to work in the NFL. Get creative.
All right, so how do you feel about Caleb Williams painting his fingernails? The quarterback for the Bears.
I like Caleb.
Okay.
I like Caleb, and I'm going to root for the young brother. For him to only be second year, third year, he running that team like he been there. You know, I'm very impressed with Caleb Williams. I'm very impressed with the brother. I wish him well. As far as I'm painting his fingernails, it ain't going to bother me too much with Caleb because he don't come off to me as being effeminate. I don't get zesty, spicy energy from Caleb. If he was spicy, I would have a problem with it. With that being said, Caleb, get rid of the fingernails, bruh. It ain't that type of party. We cannot be feeding that zesty monster that Barack Obama dropped off in our neighborhoods in 2009. Because even though we always had a homosexual issue in the black community, and let me say this, I love all black people, bro. Gay, straight, transgender, I love all black people. But I agree to disagree with anything that threatens the viability and survival of my people. Homosexuality and lesbianism is a threat to the traditional black family. If I walk out that door and I see a lesbian sister, I'm going to hug her, give her a kiss. If I walk out that door and I see a gay brother, I'll still shake his hand, right? But at the same time, I will respectfully disagree with the lifestyle because it is a threat to the traditional black family, and therefore it is a threat to the survival of our race, right? We always had homosexuality, but it was never a mainstream problem, and it was never a viable, healthy option for building a family with black people. Once Barack Obama gets elected and the shadow government forces him to endorse gay marriage, remember, both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton ran against each other, but on the same platform of marriage being between a man and a woman. Go look at the campaign speeches. Barack Obama said marriage was between a man and a woman. Soon when he gets elected, he pushes gay marriage. The shadow government made him do that, you see. And so Barack Obama is responsible for the zesty energy that we got. He created this crap. He's the one who came into the black community and pushed this stuff in the schools. Right before he left office, you know what Obama did? He signed an executive order right before he left office and said, if you don't let the girls who identify as boys go to the boys' bathroom, And if you don't let the boys who identify as girls go into the girls' bathroom, we're cutting your federal money. Why in the hell do you want to confuse our children like this? In public school, Barack Obama. And then he went to Africa and told the African leaders, if you don't endorse gay marriage, we're going to cut off your funding from America. Why does the president of the United States give a damn if gay marriage is legal in Rwanda or if gay marriage is legal in Liberia? You know why they care? Genocide. The only way we can get rid of the African race is to convince their children not to reproduce again. There was an article that came out last year, maybe the year prior. Teenage pregnancy for black girls is down for the first time since the 1970s. But they said, we don't know why. But teenage pregnancy is down in the black community. You know why? Because they all got turned out into the lesbian movement. So many of our girls, that's why they're not having babies. Every problem in the black community was engineered by the white power structure. Look at the black churches. When Barack Obama pushed the gay bomb on the black community, all the black churches was put on alert. If you disagree with the gay agenda, we cutting off your federal grants. We cutting off your federal summer programs. We cutting off your federal funds. So guess what happened? Every black church in America, almost every black church in America, now endorses the gay agenda, because if they don't, they get their money cut off. And now you got prominent black pastors being accused of sexual abuse. Donnie McClurkin, T.D. Jakes. Tyler Perry is not a pastor, but he's very much affiliated with these Christian pastors. And I'm hoping them brothers are innocent, right? Innocent until proven guilty. I'm hoping Donnie McClurkin is innocent. I'm hoping T.D. Jakes is innocent, although the gentleman dropped his charges against T.D. Jakes. They mutually dropped the charges against each other. I hope Tyler Perry is innocent, but let me be honest, because as a school psychologist, I hear a lot about these things. We have a pedophile problem in the black church. It's not just the Roman Catholic Church. It's not just the white church. There are pedophiles operating in the black church, and they never get exposed because they're part of them secret societies. There's a gay secret society amongst the black pastors, and I was told this by black pastors. So this is not no conspiracy. I was told by leading black pastors, Dr. Umar, there is a gay secret society amongst the black pastors in the mainstream churches. That don't make every pastor gay, but you got a zesty demon that has not yet been arrested in the black church. And until they do, if I have a son, he ain't going to no black church unless I'm with him. And he damn sure not singing in the choir, because I don't know what they put in the Kool-Aid in the choir, but there's an effeminizing agent in the choir in the black church. My son will never be in any black church's choir. Again, I love all black people, but I'm happy to be heterosexual, and that's the only thing I'm interested in pushing.
Mm-hmm. So I want to jump into church a little bit. We had a recent video go viral. Did you see Drewski's new church skit?
Shout out to Drewski. Shout out to Drewski. I did one of his favorite love episodes down here in Atlanta last year. I saw it, and a lot of Christians are angry at Drewski. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes Drewski poke fun at things I don't think should be made fun of, right? But guess what? I support him in that church skit. Drewski was 100% accurate in that church skit. First of all, you don't get upset at comedians, because the job of the comedian is to do what? Use satire to drive home a point by exaggerating the reality. And that's exactly what Drewski did. In that skit, when Drewski he was leaving the church, and a guy came up to him, and I think he asked him for a couple of dollars or something. And Drewski said, "Did you donate to my fund?" And the guy said, "No." He said, "Get away from my car." That's real. That's real. I've had people tell me that the church that their mother and father belonged to would not even bury them because they didn't donate enough money to it. You follow what I'm saying? So that is true. If they don't get enough money from you, they act like they don't know you. The part where he showed how, he basically tried to show how any wrongdoing that a pastor does, he will somehow, some way, use the scripture to justify what he does. Drewski did an excellent job bringing that point home. This is what I would say to the Christian church. And it's not all churches. And mind you, you're talking to a descendant of pastors, okay? That's where I get my gift of public speaking from. And I speak in churches all the time, so I have no issue with black Christianity. My issue is the fact that the church collectively speaking, does not hold itself accountable. Rest in peace to Eddie Long. I don't want to mock the death of anybody. But as you know, Eddie Long, who was a megachurch pastor here in Atlanta, he since went on home to be somewhere with the Lord. He was found to be involved in a sexual relationship with at least 2 young men in his church. Church administration knew about it. They knew Eddie Long was taking these men on trips, allegedly, and having sexual relations with them on trips, allegedly, texting them sexually leaning content in the text messages, right? And all he had to do was get baptized and go right back up to the pulpit. When is the black church going to hold itself accountable? Why isn't the black church having a tribunal with Donnie McClurkin? Why isn't the black church having a tribunal with T.D. Jakes? And again, I hope they're innocent. But why are we waiting on white man law? Why are we waiting on white man law to see if Donnie McClurkin is guilty? Why are we waiting on white man law to see if Eddie Long, rest in peace, was guilty? Why isn't the black church holding itself accountable? So they should not be getting upset with Drewski. Drewski is not the problem. They came at T.I. a couple days ago. Shout out to Tip. When T.I. said the black church is like a business to me, it is. Tomorrow is Dr. King's 97th solar return. The good Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. turns 97 years old tomorrow. Dr. King fought for the poor. Dr. King fought for civil rights. If it wasn't for Dr. King, we don't get a civil rights bill. If it wasn't for Dr. King, we don't get a Voting Rights Act. If it wasn't for Dr. King, we don't get a fair housing law. You feel me? Dr. King fought and he died for the right for black people to vote and be treated equal in this society. Name me a pastor who has come anywhere near Dr. King since Dr. King died. And Dr. King was murdered on April the 4th, 1968. That's 78, 88, 98, 08, 18, 28 will be 60 years. So we 58 years since Dr. King. Name me a church that has done anything in this country, not just Atlanta, in this country about miseducation, mass incarceration, homelessness or gentrification, police genocide, or economic apartheid. The black church is a scam because you take too much time from black people, you take too much energy from black people, and you take too much money from black people, and we don't get nothing in return. Again, there are exceptions to the rule, but the exceptions do not invalidate the rule. The black church needs to find itself because the black church has gotten too swept up into hip hop and too swept up into materialism. The black church has become too worldly to be any good to black people.
And I think that's what everybody was mad about with the Drewski skit was
he hit it
his
on the nose.
association to the wealth of these black pastors.
Yes.
Now, what you think about that?
Creflo Dollar, didn't he buy a jet? His congregation raised money for a jet. Meantime, 25% of the black boys in Atlanta can't read on grade level, but Creflo Dollar got a jet. Make it make sense. Do you really think if black Jesus the Christ, because Jesus was black, if you think Jesus Christ was here, he would approve of a pastor with a jet? You think he would approve of a pastor with a Benz when 1/3 of your congregation is living damn near along the poverty line? These pastors are pimps and they're opportunists. Nobody starts a church to save souls. Let me say that again. Not black or white. I don't care if we're talking Joel Osteen or T.D. Jakes or nobody in America opens a church to save souls. You open churches to get rich and feed your ego. Stop playing.
Now, I want to jump back to Pastor Jamal Bryant, and I believe he's a doctor. So I want to say Pastor Dr. Jamal Bryant. He seemed to have led the charge of the Target protesting, and he's from Atlanta, and he's in place of Bishop Eddie Long's church.
I didn't know that was the same church.
I believe he's the replacement.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll correct us in the comments. But why do you think our people are quicker to rally behind pastors and their messaging aside or versus someone like you who's been pushing black liberation for years?
I wouldn't say besides me, because I'm just as popular as Pastor Bryant. I'm almost as popular as almost any celebrity you name. But I would say this, to answer your question. The black community is under hypnosis of religion. I don't care if it's Christianity. I don't care if it's Islam. I don't care if it's the Roman Catholic Church. We have been a spiritually immature people since the plantation. And what I mean to say by that, my brother, is we evaluate all of our problems through the lens of religious scripture. The Bible has no solution for white supremacy. The Quran has no solution for white supremacy. Nothing in those books. I respect them books. I was raised on them books. I still read those books because there's a lot of spiritually useful metaphor in those books. But those are not political doctrines on how to overcome oppression. We have to use the intelligence God gave us to solve our problems. Black people don't do that. We run to the Bible in the Quran and look for something in there to solve our problems. So we never think out of the religious box. That is a problem. So to answer your question, the reason we will follow a pastor before we will follow a grassroots leader is because historically, the black church has always been the main institution of black people. Remember now, before Dr. King gets assassinated, right? Before Dr. King gets assassinated, the black church is the be-all, end-all for black America. It's the one-stop shop. We got out of slavery through the church. We got Pan-Africanism through the church. See this? We fought the KKK through the church. We buried our dead through the church. Black nationalism came from the church. The black church was everything. It was the only place you could go, and it was the only place you needed to go to deal with you got your job through the church. You got your schooling for your kids through the church. The first colleges, HBCUs, were founded by who? The black church. The problem is this, my brother. The black church is no longer what it was. See that? After Dr. King's assassination, the black church reinvented itself. It went away from being an instrument of agitation for justice. The black church is no longer about agitation. The black church now is about accommodation. They don't fight racism. They want to go and have tea with racism. They don't fight racism. They want to go and have lunch with racism. Do you see that? There's no black church in Atlanta that's at the forefront of the fight to improve lives for black people when it comes to fighting police, poor schooling, economics, homelessness. We used to be that. We not no more. The problem is the black community has not readjusted the importance of the black church in our lives based on how important we are in the black church. In other words, solving our problems is no longer a priority for the black church, but the black church remains a priority for black people. You see that? Just as the black church no longer has us as a priority, we should no longer have the black church as a priority. I would argue that the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy will be a more godly institution than any black church in America because we changing minds and building lives. I'll put that up against any sermon, any Sunday, anywhere.
And you speak about support of institutions, and like I said, Pastor Jamal Bryant led.
And shout out to Pastor Jamal Bryant for leading the Target boycott.
Yes.
I respect Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Pastor Jamal Bryant, because, it's Pastor Dr. Jamal Bryant, because he's one of the few racially conscious pastors we have, right? I say racially conscious, not socially conscious, because you could be socially conscious about saving animals. You could be socially conscious about the environment. You could be socially conscious about integration. You could be socially conscious about the LGBTQ. I don't care about social consciousness. I care about racial consciousness, right? So Pastor Jamal Bryant is one of the few racially conscious pastors we have of that stature. And so the boycott he led against Target, I supported. My only constructive criticism for Pastor Bryant, and he can't do this by himself, all the pastors have to do this together, is rather than boycott Target, we should have completely divested from Target and created an alternative market for black people to spend their money. Now you're creating jobs, you're creating distribution, you're helping entrepreneurs sell their products, and you're recycling the black dollar. So if Pastor Bryant is listening to this, his next move is to create a black Target. You see that? One-stop shop where I can go and buy everything that is black from black people. And we do have a Black Wall Street in Stonecrest, Georgia. I spoke there 2 years ago, I want to say, and I believe it's still operating, but one is not enough. Pastor Bryant need to bring us a black target. I do support what he did, but divestment ain't enough. We have to create institutions. Every black church in America, to get my respect, not that they need it, but every black church in America to get my respect must be about the business of building a relevant, independent black institution. That includes bank, school, hospital, supermarket, manufacturing, distribution. Barbershops are fine, restaurants are fine, but nobody's going to die if they don't go to the restaurant, and nobody's going to die if they don't get their hair done. But if you don't get to the hospital, you will die. If you're not eating healthy food, you will soon end up with an illness. You will die. If your child is not being properly educated, they'll be fed to the school to prison pipeline. They will die. So every pastor, every church, especially the mega church, needs to be building an institution. If they're not building a relevant institution, they're not a relevant church.
Now, we're speaking back on comedians from pastors. We were speaking about the comedy with Drewski. You're a Philly native, just like, you know, and Kevin Hart recently had a story. How do you feel about Kevin Hart selling the IP rights to his name? Have you seen this?
I saw it. I must withhold judgment because I don't know enough about the deal. On the surface, I don't like it. My immediate knee-jerk reaction as a revolutionary Pan-Africanist, on the surface, I don't know none of the details. Shout out to Kevin Hart. I don't know none of the details, but on the surface, I don't like it. Why? Because as a Pan-Africanist, we believe in ownership. You follow what I'm saying? We believe in do for self. We believe we never give the critical things away to someone else. I understand it's a partnership, but white people don't partner with black people, okay? So somewhere in that contract, that white man has a controlling interest in the way things are going to go. You understand what I'm saying? So on the surface, I don't like it, but I don't want to speak out of ignorance. I need to do a little bit more research. It's the same thing with these artists who are selling their catalog, right? Selling their entire catalog for $1 billion. And I'm saying to myself, you will have great-grandchildren one day. You will have great-great-grandchildren one day. You will have great-great-great-great-grandchildren. Is it possible that your music catalog could have fed your entire intergenerational lineage until the end of time? Because if your catalog was strong enough to sell your entire lineage until the end of time, why did we sell that? Because now somebody else is going to use it to feed their entire lineage until the end of time. Some things should never be sold.
Now, I saw you speak highly of Dave Chappelle being unapologetically black in his latest special. Do you feel Kevin Hart needs to lean into that more?
I'm going to say this. Dave Chappelle, without question, is the most unapologetically black comedian we have today. He's not married to a black woman. He knows how I feel about that, but I still respect my brother and I support him. Can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Kevin Hart, safe comedy, right? He's safe. And I'm not going to criticize him for being safe. He's still very much a young man with a long way to go. Remember, Bill Cosby, who paved the way for Kevin Hart, Philadelphia's first major comic, who opened up the door for Richard Pryor, by the way. Bill Cosby started off safe, and then he got more conscious and more political as he went on. So I'm expecting at some point for Kevin Hart to start interjecting some more politically conscious and socially relevant themes into his comedy, but I'm not going to press him because there's a space for the type of comedy he does, and I support him. But yes, over time, I do expect him to get a little bit more socially conscious. We need that. Everybody ain't got to go hard like Dave Chappelle. Everybody ain't got to go hard like Dr. Umar, but everybody do have to play their part at some point. And I'm sure he will step up and do that. Cat Williams, I would probably put him right behind Dave Chappelle. Cat Williams does a great job being politically relevant with his comedy. He could go a little harder too, right? Dave is number one right now. Dave is number one, right? Cat is doing well. I'm missing somebody. Ali Sadiq? I don't know him. There's somebody else who's pretty political with theirs as well. You know what I'm saying? But see, the comedian has protection. See, Dr. Umar don't have protection when I speak my truth. Comedians are given the protection because in their art form, they're expected to make fun of things that many people would consider off limits for comedy. So you have a protection. Dave Chappelle can say some things through comedy that you and I probably couldn't say in a speech. You know what I mean? Right. And so I don't want our comedians to take for granted that protection they have to introduce conversation on topics that are relevant to Black people's survival.
When Black stars get caught up in contracts, courts, and scandals, things like that, is that personal mistakes or traps are built into the system? Give me an example. I just saw Diddy try to get a pardon from Trump and got denied.
Trump can't pardon Diddy right now. And the reason President Donald Trump cannot pardon Diddy right now is because he has been socially implicated in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. He cannot pardon Diddy right now. If Donald Trump pardons Diddy right now, that will give, correctly or incorrectly, it will give the impression that he is soft on sexual offenders. And many people will start to draw a conclusion that you must have had something to do with Jeffrey Epstein if you're going to pardon Diddy. You follow what I'm saying? He can't. You got to remember, Donald Trump has been accused of sexual harassment since 1970 by more than 24 different women. He just paid one woman $5 million after being found liable for sexual harassment in court, although they did not find him liable for rape, right? So Donald Trump got a history of sex abuse. And with that Jeffrey Epstein scandal floating around his life right now, the last thing he can do is pardon someone accused of something similar. Not the same, because Sean Combs was never accused of taking advantage of children, right? So I want to clarify that. But still, it still falls under the umbrella of sexual harassment and abuse. Trump can't go nowhere near Diddy right now.
So how do you feel these celebrities get help from the other side? Like, how do you, or let me rephrase that. How do you feel when these celebrities get help from the other side, such as Kodak Black, Lil Wayne did at one time? Are they coons, or you consider them?
Trump pardoned them in order to rescue his public image amongst the millennials and the hip hop generation. That's just strategy. He also pardoned the former mayor of Detroit. What's my brother's name?
I know you talk about.
Kwame Kilpatrick. He pardoned a few other people. But here's what I would say to that. Helping individual Black people does not help the Black community. Let me give you an example. We got a lot of Black millionaires in America, don't we? But the school systems are still horrible. Black people are still systemically turned down for jobs they were overqualified for versus their white counterparts, right? Jay-Z being a billionaire has changed nothing for Black America. Oprah being a billionaire has changed nothing for Black America. Serena, Tiger Woods, Rihanna, I love them all, but their economic status has not translated into any measurable gain for Black people. But what the white man loves to do, to hide and distract from the hell Black people catch, he will put the Black billionaires on Front Street. He will put them all over the internet. He will give them awards, invite them to the White House, give them the Presidential Medal of Honor, Michael Jordan and others, right? To distract away from the fact that most Black people are not millionaires and they are catching hell. So our millionaire class is actually being used to hide and to cover up the racism that everyday Black people face. You don't solve collective problems by helping individuals. You solve collective problems by building systems to eradicate those problems, not by propping up individuals. Since when has tokenism benefited Black people? Tokenism didn't benefit us in civil rights. Tokenism didn't benefit us in affirmative action. Tokenism didn't benefit us on the slave plantation. So why are we expecting tokenism to benefit us now?
So Georgia might get its first Black governor soon with Keisha Lance Bottom. do the first still really mean something, or it's just optics now?
Excellent question. We've had the first black president. We've had first black governors. We've had the first black winners. We have the first black creators, the first black CEO. Here's the question from a Pan-Africanist perspective. Does it translate into power for our community? The difference between the black nationalist, the difference between the revolutionary Pan-African nationalist and the integrationist, the integrationist measures progress based on symbols. As a Pan-African nationalist, I measure progress based on power. The integrationist will say, look, Barack Obama, we've made some gains. The integrationist will say, look, Beyonce and all the Grammys she won from white people. You see that? The integrationist will say, look, we got the first black first black governor in Atlanta. But you had the first black mayor in Atlanta. What's his name? Andrew, who walked with Dr. King. Andrew Young. What did it do? You see what I'm saying? No disrespect to the elder, but my point is, symbols mean nothing when you are in need of substance. I'm measuring power. Dr. Umar's definition, the Pan-Africanist definition of power is, to what extent are black people any more in control of our community, ourselves, and our destiny than we were when the U.S. Congress passed the 13th Amendment in 1865? It's been over 157 years. Do we have any more power now than we did then? Do we have any more wealth now than we did then? Because if you measure what we had in Reconstruction, if you measure what we had in the early 20s during the Black Wall Street movement compared to what we got now, we actually went backwards. We got more millionaires. But the general condition of the black community in terms of wealth and influence, it has dropped off. So her being the first governor, I applaud the sister for achieving her dream. It means nothing to the rest of us unless when she leaves that governor's mansion, black people are now in control of some schools in Atlanta. Black people are now in control of some land in Atlanta. Black people are now in control of some industries in Atlanta. But if all we get is another black face in a high place, that does nothing for us.
Do you believe black boys are being overdiagnosed in special education?
Let's do the history. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court outlawed the use of race in public education. You can no longer separate black kids from white children. As a result of that, white people gave birth to the largest independent school creation movement in American history. More independent white schools were created from 1954 through 1974 than any other year in American history. But there was a problem. Working class and poor white parents couldn't afford private school tuition, right? So guess what they did in 1975? They created special ed, federal special ed. You already had special education on the state level in certain places, right? But you didn't have a nationwide special ed program. In 1975, the federal government created a federal special ed program. And do you know why they did it? To placate white people who did not want to accept black children into desegregated white schools. So this is what the United States government did. They came into Georgia. They came into places like Atlanta and all over this country. And they said, listen, you're still keeping black kids from going to school, even though the U.S. Supreme Court already said you can't do that. But the problem is the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't have what? Enforcement power. Who's the executive branch? The president. He enforces. The Supreme Court only interprets the Constitution, right? So just because they said public school desegregation based on race is wrong, white people don't have to listen. The Supreme Court justices ain't going to come down to Atlanta and fight these white folks to let black kids in, right? So the government said, we have a solution. So the government went to the white racist school districts in Georgia and said, this is what we're going to do. We got a program called special ed. If you let them black kids in your white school, we're going to let you segregate them again. But you're not going to do it because they're black. At least you're not going to say that. You're going to say, we're segregating Raheem and Randy and Tay Tay and Mike not because they're black, That's the real reason. But the official reason is going to be what? Because Mike got ADHD. Tay got a reading disability. John got a math disability. Little Randy is autistic. You see that? And so now the federal government helped white people resegregate the schools. Let me say that again. Through special ed, the federal government helped white people resegregate the schools by giving them a whole list of artificial disabilities that they can use to separate black kids from white kids under the justification of special education. Special ed is a scam and a fraud. Now, don't get me wrong. You're talking to a certified school psychologist, 25 years. But guess what? The learning disability is real, but most black kids in special ed don't have one. They were put in there because white people don't want them in a class with white kids. Autism is real, but you got a lot of black kids who are not autistic who are being put in special ed because white people don't want black kids who are around their white kids. Emotional disturbance is real. Intellectual disability is real. ADHD, that's a scam. Ain't no daddy at home disorder. But the reason they're slapping these labels on these black kids is because the government says if they got a learning disability, they can be legally segregated. And check this out. If you legally segregate them, we're going to pay you money. Every time I qualify a child for special ed, guess what? The school gets a subsidy. Special ed is a business, bro. Special ed is a hustle. Special ed is a racket. And then you might say, well, wait a minute, Dr. Umar, what about inner city Atlanta where most of the kids are black? I mean, most of the teachers are probably black. How do you explain special ed in a black district with black teachers? Real simple. They need the money or they too lazy to teach them. If I'm principal at the We Hate Black Kids middle school in Atlanta, and you one of my teachers and you send me 5 black boys and you say, Dr. Umar, they can't read, I got a decision to make. I know why they can't read, because I know they ain't been taught. He ain't got no reading disability, ain't got no math disability. He ain't been taught. But if I want to teach him, I got to spend money. If I special educate them, I get money. What do you think a lot of lazy ass black principals and teachers are doing? You think they're going to put the extra effort in to get them kids at the grade level? Hell no. They're going to send them to the school psychologist, which is what I am, get him evaluated, get him labeled, throw him in special ed jail, and make that money. And when he gets 17 years old, he'll cross the stage with a cap and gown, but he won't have a real diploma. He'll have a certificate of completion. Wasted 17 years of his life. His mother didn't even know that he wasn't even earning credits towards graduation. Special education is the fast track to the school to prison pipeline.
Now, if we fast forward to 2036, do you believe Black America will be stronger?
In 10 years?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna change that question. Can Black America be stronger? The right, excellent, honorable Marcus Garvey said, if we got to know ourselves today, we can have a new reality tomorrow. Can we be stronger in 10? We can be stronger in 5. Do we want to be? Because you can't do that chasing after white vagina. You can't do that moving into white neighborhoods. You can't do that giving all your money to black churches who don't build institutions. You can't do that with black men on the internet disrespecting black women like it's going out of style. You can't do that with black women spending the bulk of their disposable income on hair and beauty products. You see that? You got to have a transformation of consciousness. We can have a new reality in 5 years, brother. We don't need 10. But how many of us really want that? That's why when we open up the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, I'm going to start an African community for black people who want to be saved, not by Christ, but by themselves. You feel me? It's going to be a community, and you're going to pay into a membership. And with the money you pay into, we're going to build our own hospital. We're going to build our own bank. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to, for those who care, because the worst mistake we can make, you, me, this brother, them sisters, is try to save every black person. Not every black person want to be saved. You got Negroes in Georgia who are so in love with white people, if you tried to wake them up to black consciousness, they would take your life. So I'm not trying to save every black person. I'm trying to save the right person. I had somebody stop me at the airport a couple of weeks ago. They said, Dr. Umar, how are we going to save our people? Time out. I am not trying to save all black people. I'm trying to save the right black people. You feel me? Some of these street corners, I can go on these corners and I can get these brothers off. And I'm the most popular scholar in the ghetto, but I can't save them all. Some of them brothers are married to that marijuana bag. They married to that bag of crack. They married to them guns. You understand? It ain't their fault. It ain't their fault. Their parents allowed them to get caught up into the crime cycle that the white man dropped off in the ghetto. It ain't their fault, but he can't be saved because he don't want to be. So the worst mistake you can make is thinking you're going to save all blacks. I don't want to save all blacks. I want to save the right blacks.
Yeah. Now, who is really failing this right now? Leaders, celebrities, parents, or just everyday people?
Who is really
for the black community? Who is really failing us right now?
Okay,
Leaders,
in other words, working
parents,
against us.
Right.
Everybody. The question ain't who's felonious amongst black America. The question is who is authentically progressive. And do you know why I say authentically? Because in this black consciousness movement that we have, over which I am king of, a lot of people in it just to get paid. A lot of people in it just to get seen by Hollywood. A lot of people in it to get a name for themselves so they can run for public office. A lot of people in it just because they want some coochie. A lot of people just want to feed their ego. You understand me? There are very few people in black consciousness globally. I done been every continent. I done spoke on every continent. I could count on one hand the amount of people in the black consciousness movement on the planet Earth who I believe are sincere. I'm gonna give you two hands that are sincere. See, me, for whatever people may say about Dr. Umar, I live mines. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I could go to any mental health clinic right now and I could command no less than $250,000 a year salary plus incentives. You know how much money they paying out here to diagnose kids with ADHD? I can do that. You know how much money they paying out here to diagnose kids with learning disabilities and autisms? I can do that. I have the credentials to go and pimp black children to get rich. I can do it right now. But I am loyal to my race. There is no amount of money I can't be bought. I've had people come to me and try to get me to join little cliques and secret societies. I've had white people come to me and offer to make me rich. No. No, no, no. I'm going to do this my way, and I'm going to do it the right way, because everybody going to die one day. And when they put your ass in that pine box and they put you 6 feet in that ground, your car not going with you, your bank account not going with you, your Grammys ain't going with you. Michael Jackson is the greatest entertainer in the history of the world, but when they put him in the pine box, he went without his awards, he went without his billion-dollar status, he went without Neverland. You come into this world butt-ass naked by yourself, you leave this world butt-ass naked by yourself. So there is nothing no white man can ever offer me that get me to betray my people. And I say that because a lot of people will accuse me of being elitist or arrogant or selfish. They say, Dr. Umar don't work with nobody. Why he don't work with the other guys in the conscious community? You don't see it with him? You don't see it with him? Can I ask you a question? What work are they doing besides running their mouth and regurgitating my talking points? Ain't none of them trying to build nothing. Ain't none of them trying to change nothing. They're just running around the country talking. I do it too. But I also save children from the school to prison pipeline more than any psychologist in America. I do it too, but I'm also building a school that's going to change things for our people. You understand? I don't just talk. All they do is talk. So when people say, why don't you work with them? Work with who? Which one of them are doing something besides making YouTube videos? Find me somebody who building institutions and I work with them. Until then, I'll keep working alone. Pan-Africanism or perish.
Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Download the app now. Use code GAFollowers. Play $5 and get $50 back in lineups. That sounds like a deal to me. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Prize Picks. Play $5, get $50 instantly in lineup. Use code GAFollowers.
This is a side question from something you just spoke about with other
Conscious
in the movement,
personalities.
Movement, right? In Atlanta, here we have Deontay Cal. Have you heard of him?
I didn't know he was based there. I heard of him.
Yep, so he's based in the Grits and Eggs podcast. We do support him and we like him, and I met the brother.
I like his message.
So yeah, what do you think about Deontay Cal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like his message.
Okay.
I didn't know he was Atlanta though.
Yep.
I like his message.
Okay.
He's one of the few in the podcast world who I say has relevant conversation.
Okay.
He's one of the few. I give him that. I haven't followed the podcast, but I've seen little clips. He's one of the few. I'm sure he watches Dr. Umar videos.
I'm sure he does. Now, if you can give one blueprint for the next generation of black men and women to actually win, what is it?
The blueprint is independence. See, here's the thing. There's no secret to how you win. Chinese do it every day. Indians do it every day. Arabs do it every day. Latinos do it. There's no secret. You organize, you pull your money, and you build infrastructure. There's no secret. The reason black people keep asking for what the plan is, because they don't want to hear what the plan is. You know why we keep asking for what the plan is? We don't want to sacrifice the money. We don't want to sacrifice the time. We don't want to sacrifice the energy. And we don't want the responsibility or the accountability. Do you hear what I'm telling you? Listen, I'm building a small school. Well, the Frederick Douglass High School is large, but the Marcus Garvey Elementary School is like mid-size, right? Bruh, if I wasn't committed, I would have been gave up on that school, bro. All the times we've been scammed, all the time we had to fight vandals, scam artists, the city, you understand me? We've been through a lot, bro. And I'm like, if I wasn't committed to the school, I would have been gave up because I didn't know I would go through all that just to open up a school for kids. You follow what I'm saying? Froze our bank accounts, tried to sell the school behind our back, all the lies on the internet by people who don't even know me. You know what I'm saying? Bro, there's a lot of accountability when you build an institution. And I only got a baby. I can imagine what it's going to take us to do that hospital. You feel me? I can imagine what it's going to take us to do that bank. But here's the thing. You have to commit your money consistently over time. You feel me? You have to commit your money consistently over time. Black people don't want to do that. We just want to drop off when we want to drop off. You don't build a community by dropping off when you want to drop off. You build a community by consistently donating over time. Black people don't believe in weaponizing our money. We'll vote because it's free. We'll march because it's free. We'll pray because it's free. But when you start saying institutions, wait a minute. How much is that hospital going to cost? And how much you expecting me to give? How often? For how long? How much is this bank going to cost? You expecting me to give? How much? For how often? For how long? You see what I'm saying? I'll come to the meeting. I'll come to the rally. I'll come to the protest. Look how they is with FDMG. Why the school ain't here yet? You ain't built nothing independent in your life, and you weren't about a man building an independent institution that you never even gave a penny to. You feel me?
Yep.
I don't get paid for doing what I'm doing. All the time and the effort and blood, sweat, and tears I put in FDG, that's my money. I don't use the school's money. You understand me? I could pay myself. Sure, I could give myself a salary. Have I done it? Hell no. That ain't my money. That's the people's money. You feel me? I don't do that. A lot of these nonprofits, they get themselves a CEO salary. They get a staff. And you think you donating to the school. All you doing is donating to their pay. All to feed the homeless kids in Africa. Why do you think the children's still hungry and you got these organizations been around for 50 years collecting billions of dollars and the African kids still hungry? Because legally, as a nonprofit, you can pay yourself. You can pay your team. You can pay for your travel. Do I do that? Hell no. I do it on my own. So my point is, brother, for us to institutionalize, we have to be committed to financial obligation. Black people are not doing that. The only institution we will commit to and make a substantial financial obligation is the church. That's why when you go to these mega churches in Atlanta, they ask for your tax return. They ask for your pay stub. You're not going into no mega church in America. Very few mega churches you're going to go into, and they don't ask you for your paycheck or your tax return, and they're going to tell you how much you tithing. You feel me? You don't decide what you give in these mega churches. If you want to be associated with us, this scam we running in the name of Jesus, oh, you make $250,000 a year. Your tithes is $5,000 a year. If you ever fall out on the tithes, ain't no need to come to church until you catch up on your tithe. The church is the only institution that can command that type of discipline from black people because we're spiritually immature. The only institution we answer to is the one institution that does nothing for us.
Now, speaking on commitment, have you ever had a moment where you question your mission or wonder if all this was worth it?
It's always worth it. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said, what we do today will inspire others to act at some future time. It's always worth it. If I fail, somebody will see my example, fix the mistakes, and they will carry on. This is not a sprint, it is an intergenerational relay race. When it's time for me to sit down, I got to pass that baton off, And I'm hoping through the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we have a whole generation of black boys who I can pass it off to. I'm building nation builders, you feel me? They're gonna graduate, I wanna send some of them to Africa, build community. Send some of them to Canada, build community. Send some of them to Brazil that I just came back from, build community. To Panama, Costa Rica, where I've been, build community. Go to France, go build community. I'm trying to create a Pan-African force of black leaders who will create institutions and communities as opposed to sitting on the internet blaming black women for problems we should be solving ourselves.
Absolutely. When it's all said and done, how do you want Black America to remember Dr. Umar Johnson?
He did the best he could with what little he had. That's it.
All right. All right, that's all my questions from me, Dr. Umar.
No problem,
thank you.
no problem. Yes, sir. Yes,
truly,
sir.
truly thank you for your time today. We thank you
problem.
for flying from Philly down here to Atlanta.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed it.
We are Georgia's #1 platform, and we are with the #1 Black scholar.
Yes, sir.
And we love supporting you, and we're going to continue to support you, and hopefully we can have another spot of time with you along your journey.
Absolutely. And shout out to the Grits and Eggs podcast. Keep doing what y'all doing. I really like the fact that they pushing that consciousness the way we should push it. They might be the only ones out there doing it. I'm gonna have to listen to
There's a few.
There's a few more?
Yeah, there's a few more.
They might be.
They just a little more smaller, but.
From the clips that I've seen though, I think the Grits and Eggs podcast might do the best job in terms of keeping the conversation relevant from the clips that I've seen.
Yes.
Because my supporters send me everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have time to watch them.
Yeah.
So Doc,
Yeah.
from all of what I get, because I get a buffet a week.
Right.
I would say Grits and Eggs does the best job, so I'm gonna give him a shout
And
out.
I like his stance. Last week he spoke on like, I am not your savior though, right? He spoke about that independent thinking of his fans and the community base he's trying to build is, I am not the savior though
Powerful.
for everybody. So he speaks a
Definitely
little bit
listens to
along your
Dr.
alignment
Umar.
too. Yep.